Jonathan Balls was an English serial killer who was posthumously accused of poisoning at least 22 people, almost all of them close family members, in the village of Happisburgh, Norfolk from 1824. He was born in Happisburgh in 1769. Balls lived in Happisburgh for his entire life and was by all accounts a bad character who had served prison time for many petty crimes, including arson. At some point in his life, he married a woman named Elizabeth, a woman 6 years older than him, with whom he had 3 daughters, all of whom would marry and have multiple children of their own later on in life. As the family had been poor for most of their life, they were supported by a parochial relief fund. As Balls grew older, his parochial fund, nowadays social benefits, dwindled, and he had to rely on increasing financial support from his children. This supposedly served as motivation to start fatally poisoning other family members one by one, so the proceeds could be directed towards him instead. The first recorded suspicious death was of one of his daughters, 24-year-old Maria Lacy, who died from what was described as a combination of mistreatment from her husband and some unidentified illness. 1 year later, on the 25th of December 1836, 13-month-old granddaughter Maria Green died mysteriously, followed by another granddaughter, 8-year-old Anne Peggs, died from a presumed illness on the 7th of June 1839. Shortly after 13-month-old Martha Green died, her 3-year-old brother, William, also died on the 31st of October 1841. For the following few years, multiple other family members died in suspicious circumstances, including one of Ball's children, his daughter Maria Lacy, and both parents who died mysteriously after moving from their home in Bromstead to live with him in 1824. Due to the increasing number of deaths in the family, the neighbors asked for an inquest to be held into their deaths on at least 2 occasions, but no such investigation took place. In September 1845, a grandson named Samuel Green died, followed by Ball's bedridden wife, Elizabeth. Only 4 months later, the final confirmed victim was a granddaughter, Elizabeth Ann Pessell, who died on the 17th of April 1846. Suicide and investigation. Just 3 days after his last granddaughter's death, Jonathan Balls died at his home in Happisburgh after he was suddenly struck with an illness days prior. Seemingly convinced that he was going to die, he instructed one of his daughters that he wanted to be buried with several items: a Bible, 2 plum cakes put in each of his hands, a fire iron, some coal tongs and handkerchiefs. His funeral took place a few days later and was attended by a few friends and some of his surviving relatives, with yet another death laid at the family's doorstep. The local populace begged the local coroner, Mr. Pilgrim, to exhume the bodies and re-examine the cause of death. To put it in context, the village population was only around 200 to 300 at the time, so this was 7 to 10% of the population. Eventually, Pilgrim listened and ordered the exhumations of Jonathan Balls and Elizabeth Pessell's bodies, which was attended by the local pastor, several church wardens, and police officers. The coroners found an unusually large quantity of arsenic in both bodies, and because of this, they started investigating other family members. Authorities also questioned the living relatives and some of the servants who had been employed at the property, with one maid, Sarah Carrison, claiming that she had seen Balls sprinkling pinches of a mysterious white powder into a teacup that he gave to his sickly wife, only for her illness to gradually worsen before her eventual death. When Carrison herself tasted some of the food prepared in the household, she quickly fell ill and showcased symptoms of poisoning such as vomiting and severe chest pain. The bodies that were examined and proven to have been poisoned were Maria Lacy, 24 years, his daughter in July 1832, Maria Green, 15 months, his granddaughter on the 25th of December 1836, Anne Peggs, 8 years, his granddaughter on the 7th of June 1839, Martha Green, 13 months, his granddaughter on the 31st of October 1841, William Green, 2 years, his grandson on the 31st of October 1841. and Elizabeth Pessel, 2 years, his granddaughter in 1843. Samuel Pessel, 3 years, his grandson on September 1845. Elizabeth Ann Bowles, 82 years, his wife in December 1845. Elizabeth Ann Pessel, 9 weeks old, his granddaughter of his 3 surviving daughters. Mary Green stated that she had had 8 grandchildren at the time of the inquiry, which ultimately grew to 11, 8 of whom were dead. The known arsenic victims make up 3 grandchildren, so it is highly likely that another 5 Green children could be added to the list. Another daughter, Mrs. Pessel, had 6 children, 4 died, 3 with arsenic poisoning. The luckiest, if you could call her that, being Mrs. Peggs. Of her brood of 5, only 1 died under great circumstances of suspicion. The case became a media sensation and even attracted enough attention for a discussion in the Parliament, with one attendee, a Mr. Wackley, requesting that an inquiry take place. In response, the Home Secretary, Sir James Graham, 2nd Baronet, said that he would do whatever he could to convince the Home Office to look further into the case. The Secretary of State did indeed convene an inquiry. This led to the exhumation of a further 7 bodies, of these 1 being a man named Nurse, a neighbour of Bowles, and who, according to Sarah Carrison, had had a heated argument with Bowles. Nurse accused Bowles of the deaths of the grandchildren. They decided to calm down and go to a pub together for a drink. A mere 3 hours later, Nurse was dead. At this point, Carrison was now suspicious of her employer. She left and obtained a role in Yarmouth, and not before time. A few days prior to Bowles' wife's death, she and Bowles' daughter Mrs. Green had been poisoned with herring at breakfast, but not with a fatal dose. Bowles' parents, a poor couple living in Bemstead, had also died suddenly. No details were recorded other than the circumstances were mysterious. In all, at least 22 victims were attributed to Bowles, making him probably the least known, but still highly prolific serial killer due to the era he lived in.